A new chapter for Dead by Daylight has just been released, titled Chains of Hate. In this video, I will be reviewing the new killer, the new killer's perks, the new survivor's perks, and the new map. The new killer is known as the Deathslinger, and his power, called the Redeemer, allows him to shoot a spear out of his gun to hit survivors. This spear has a chain attached to it, which allows the Deathslinger to reel in survivors and hit them if they don't free themselves in time. To escape, survivors can either perform the struggle action or use the environment to both stall and break the chain. Even if they do escape, survivors will become injured and suffer from the deep wound status effect. Within the Dead by Daylight community, there seems to be an argument about whether he is overpowered or underpowered. I don't think he is either, but I still do want to see some tweaks to his power. The thing that annoys me the most about the Deathslinger is that the penalties you face when you escape the chain and the penalties you face when you don't escape the chain are almost identical. I think that if the spear hits but the survivor escapes, the survivor should only be put in the deep wound status effect, while if it hits and the survivor does not escape, they should take damage and then maybe get affected by the deep wound status effect. That way, if the Deathslinger only half succeeds, the survivor might take a health state of damage, whereas if he fully succeeds, the survivor will take a full health state of damage. Another debate that has arose from this update is whether or not this new killer is too similar to the Huntress. I'm going to be honest, in a lot of recent cases, the killers have been really repetitive, but I do not think this is one of those cases. And if you disagree, just pretend that the gun is a fishing rod and that kind of helps. I'm not 100% confident with this, but for now, I do believe that they're not too similar. I mean, we've never really had a killer that can reel in survivors, and there are also some other differences between the two. Because Huntress, it's really easy to hit, whereas Deathslinger, you need to be precise. And when you're trying to counter the Huntress, you try not to be hit, while for Deathslinger, besides running in a zigzag or something, it's hard to avoid being hit, but once you are hit, that's when the counterplay starts coming in, like, moving into walls or struggling, and so and so. Now let's discuss the Deathslinger's teachable perks. The first one is Gearhead. When a survivor has performed a good skill check on a generator, he sees the generator's aura until it stops being repaired, and this activates after he hits the survivor a certain amount of times. I think this is going to be a good anti-gen rush perk, decent perk, not much to say about it. His next perk is called Dead Man Switch, which is activated when the obsession is hooked. While activated, survivors who stop working on a generator will cause the generator to be blocked off by the entity. I think this is a good perk. It'll counter some pesky survivor strategies, and overall, good perk. His final perk is Hex Retribution. I don't like this perk because I think it's lazy. It's basically just Hex Haunted Grounds, but with Oblivious status effect instead of Exposed status effect. I just don't like it. So I didn't talk too much about how I felt about some of these perks. I'm pretty new to the game, so I don't know how to feel about perks straight away. But speaking of perks, we're now going to be moving on to the Survivor's new perks. The new Survivor is named Zarina Kassir. Her first perk is Off the Record. Off the Record activates when you get off a hook and lasts for a limited time. While it is active, you do not make grunts of pain, and your aura will not be revealed to the killer. I like this perk. It ensures a clean getaway. It is kind of like just a hybrid between Iron Will and Distortion, but I don't have as much as a problem with that as I did with Hex Retribution. So, yeah. Her next perk is Red Herring, and it is very interesting. We've never really seen anything in the game like it besides maybe the Pebble perk. But basically, if you start working on a generator and then hide in any locker, it'll make a sound like someone failed a skill check, and basically just give the killer a false alarm. It's pretty interesting. Zarina's last perk is For the People. This perk grants her an overpowered ability, but at a cost. Basically, if she is healthy, she can instantly heal a survivor for 1 health state, but she becomes injured, receives the broken status effect for a limited time, and becomes the obsession. I'm curious to see how this turns out. It's either going to be a disaster or it's going to be pretty well balanced. And I'm glad the creators considered how powerful this might be and created those trade-offs so that hopefully it'll become balanced. But yeah, this seems like a pretty good perk. Finally, let's talk about the new map. For a while now, I felt like most of the maps in Dead by Daylight are the same, except for Haddonfield, the indoor maps, the corn maps, and a few others. And I know if you actually take time to look at them, they're very different, but they don't feel different when you're playing them. And that's why I am such a huge fan of this new map. The atmosphere alone is enough to warrant it as its own map, but it also has, the structures are different. Just has everything, and it even has breakable walls. And I've heard that they're talking about adding breakable walls to every map, but I think it'd be cool if each map had their own little gimmick. Like this one would have breakable walls, and maybe another one would have, doors or something. That's just a quick idea, but I think it would be really cool and different if each map had their own feature, and it would make most of the maps feel a lot more different and a lot more fresh. But yeah, I'm just blown away with this map. It is really good. Dead by Daylight needs more maps like this. They even changed the exit gates and the hooks and everything. That concludes things for today's video, but there are a few things I want to say before you go. First of all, I'm sorry I didn't upload last week. I'm gonna upload twice this weekend, hopefully, to make up for that. Also, shout out to Brayden. Thank you for being one of my first subscribers, and thank you to everyone else who's subscribed. Also, one of the clips I used in this video appears every time you boot up the game, but that clip's original purpose was to be a trailer for this new chapter. So since it is part of the game now, I am allowed to use it, but just in case, I'll leave a link in the description to the original video, and I just want to state I didn't make that animation. It was made by the Dead by Daylight team, but it is part of the game now, and I'll show you that clip in a second if you don't know what I'm talking about.